Hi there. Today I'm going to talk to you about a few words that we use in Esperanto when it comes to pouring things. In English, we can pretty much say, oh, I poured that over there, and that covers just about anything you might want to pour or spread or dump or put out over into another area. In Esperanto, we have to be a little more specific if we're talking about liquids versus non-liquids. So what are the words that we use in Esperanto for pouring? They are mainly going to be one of the following, a form of one of these two words. Verŝi or Ŝuti. Verŝi and Ŝuti. Those are the main pouring words that you're going to use. And let's start with Verŝi, and I'll talk you through variations and children of that verb that you might also encounter. So verŝi is the word for pouring a liquid. Akvo is water. Likvo is just a general word for a liquid. So that V there in verŝi, think of liquids being poured. Also, oni verŝas vinon en glason. One pours wine into a glass. So the V in vino as well is what you often would think of when you're pouring stuff. Speaking of wine, you might find in an old story, especially of medieval stories, where there might be someone whose job it is to keep the wine glasses filled to the brim. Usually a young lad running about, a lowly servant, whose job it is to make sure everyone's drinks are refreshed. What do we call that person in English? Uncle, I'm thirsty. Come, be my cupbearer, says King Joffrey to Uncle Tyrion. Well, in English, we're focusing on the fact that he is bearing or carrying about the cup. Yeah, okay, message received. We understand his job more or less there. But in Esperanto, that's not the word construction or what we are describing when we talk about that person. Instead, we say, Vi estu mia verŝisto. You be my professional pourer. Sometimes it's more specified into vin verŝisto, but verŝisto is the word for one who pours. If you just said vin isto, then people are going to think of a sommelier or a wine steward, someone who specializes, like a chef makes food, whereas a waiter might bring it to you. All right, we're talking about the waiter form of that. All right, we're not talking about the specialist who can tell you what vineyard to check out next on your trip through Italy. No, that would be a vinisto. We're talking right now about a cupbearer, a person who runs around pouring stuff and making sure your glass is filled. So verŝisto, if you see that, that is what's going to be talked about. So it's mostly going to be found in old medieval stories or even biblical stories, is maybe where you'd come across a character like that with that kind of profession. So verŝi. Now verŝi is used for liquids. It can also be used abstractly to talk about, let's say, light pouring in through a window, or perhaps music pouring into the room and making everyone want to dance. So you could say, La luno verŝis lumon sur la arbojn. The moon poured light onto the trees, right? So it's not literally pouring a liquid. No, it's radiating out, it's sending out, but almost like a liquid, sending out the light, and it's hitting those trees. So you can use it that way, but most of the time it is literally describing a liquid that is being poured out, okay? I think the dictionary definition for verŝi is to elglitigi. So gliti means to slip. So glitigi means to cause to slip. So elglitigi means to cause to slip out. So that's literally what you're doing when you have a full bottle and you want to get it out of there. You're causing it to, whoopsie, slip right out into another receptacle, or right into your mouth perhaps. So elglitigi likvon. That is what it means to say verŝi. Okay, so verŝi, we got that one down. The other main word, oh wait, before we move on, talking about pouring liquids, another word comes to mind is decanti. Now that one I don't think I've ever actually used in conversation, but decanti, if you're a reader of maybe older medieval stories, you might recognize, oh, to decant, right? Exactly, so to pour off. I'll walk you through it. If you have a liquid like wine or coffee, you might pour it very slowly so as to not have the final cup full of the sediments, the crud, the dross, the waste, the leftover stuff that is settled into the bottom. So you pour it slowly. I do that in the morning with my coffee. I don't use paper filters, which would catch that stuff. So with my coffee method, I will slowly pour it out, and then right at the end I'll stop, because all that's left is just that sort of silt that I don't really want to deal with. So decanti is describing that specific type of liquid pouring. And what is that leftover stuff? That might be a good question. If you're staying with someone through the Pasporta Servo, where if you speak Esperanto, you can stay with Esperantists around the world when you travel. I've had many people stay here in my home who are Esperanto speakers. I've traveled abroad and stayed with others. And while you're doing that, you might offer each other coffee and, want to clean up after yourself. So what do you say about this leftover coffee grounds that have already been used? What do we call that? Recremento. Recremento. You could specify coff recremento, the coffee leftover grounds and silt and crud. But recremento is sort of that leftover dross there. So, oni decantas por ne trinki recrementon. One decants to not drink the dross of a beverage. So there we go. Now you're ready to talk about pouring liquids. Now let's move on to non-liquids. If we're talking about pouring other things, or to pour or to dump out, might be often what we use. If I have a big bag of clothes that I want to put in the laundry bin, what would I say there? Think of a laundry chute. Ŝuti is to pour or dump out non-liquids. So put it in the laundry chute, you're going to use ŝuti for that. A word for clothing material, textiles, is ŝtofo. So oni ŝutas ŝtofon, or ŝtofoin, if you have lots of different clothing materials and bits of that. That's what you use there. So ŝuti ŝtofon, if you're pouring that out. And you might see a form of this verb, which is ŝutigi. Ŝutigi means to get poured out, to get dumped out. And it also is kind of synonymous with to spill out. So you could say, estis truo en la sako kai la greno ŝutigis sur la plankon. All right, there was a hole in the sack, in the baggie, and the grain, therefore, was poured out, got dumped out there because of that. So ŝutigi is that sort of, oh no, it's everywhere, it fell right on out of there. It's another way of saying fall. You could say folly is to fall, but it shows how it's just, oh man, it really was spread out there, and it's all over the place there. So ŝutigi is a good word to use, but you're most likely, in this computerized digital age, you're most likely to use ŝuti in one of the following forms, either al ŝuti or el ŝuti. So when I'm done recording this video, I'm going to al ŝutigin. Al ŝuti means to upload or to pour into or pour onto. And so think of the object being the cloud, the internet. I'm going to al ŝutigin. I'm going to shove it or shoot it or pour it up into the cloud when I'm ready to put it there. But if I want something off of the internet or out of the internet, what do? I el ŝuti. I download it down off of there. I have the internet pour it out from itself onto me. So el ŝuti is to download, al ŝuti is to upload. It doesn't have to be used for computer stuff, but that's usually these days. We're not farmers loading our grain silos very often, so for most of us, that is where we're going to use a form of ŝuti, is to al ŝuti and el ŝuti, and it does help to specify so that we know, oh, what's your download speed and upload speed? Those usually aren't the same with internet providers. So ŝuti, decanti, ŝutigi, verŝi, those are just some words that might come in handy for you when it comes to pouring things. I want to especially thank my Patreon patrons for making videos like these possible. We just added a new one a few hours ago, Texas Mac. Welcome to the Patreon club here. If anyone else would like to join and, give a few dollars a month towards helping me dedicate time in my schedule for these videos, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.
Patrons, thank you so much for your support in making these videos and for helping people explore Esperanto.